Okay, in the top middle, we do have our blue Zerg. It is XiaoShuai. And in the bottom right, we do have Gypsy. Now, during the break, I was kind of mentioning to Shun here that I have played XiaoShuai, also in BSL, and from my own experience versus Chinese players is once it gets really late in their time zone, they seem to turn it up a notch in terms of aggression. So I'm curious if XiaoShuai will actually really all in here, because we saw some macro games versus Mihus where he did commit to a lot of lurkers and mutas, but I didn't feel like he was necessarily all in with that. But it could be definitely in the repertoire here from XiaoShuai, because in my own experience versus him, I think I played him on circuit breakers, I scanned Mutalist, and then all of a sudden there were 10 lurkers at my natural, and I was dead. So definitely got to consider the option for just a mega all-in.
Well, I mean, he could get super spicy and go for like something. He's not going to, but he could do something crazy and go for like 9-pool lair, 1-hatched lurker. This is like, there's no high ground on Apocalypse, so it's really tough to like, have like a backup bunker to defend the follow-up lurker or so after they initially break down the wall. So yeah, there's all kinds of shenanigans you can do on this map as Zerg in the early game if you did want to go super spicy, but I have a feeling we're not going to see anything too crazy. I think it's just going to be a normal 2-hatch Muir.
Yeah, when I say aggression from XiaoShuai, I don't expect 4-pool or 9-pool or anything like that. I'm talking about like a mid-game, maybe no hive, maybe full-on all mutas.
Just a mutal then.
Yeah, I mean, that's the possibility. Well, so far, everything looks very standard. It is 2-minute gas, 2-minute pool. Everything looks very normal from Gypsy, like in comparison to Mihu's build. This is probably going to, again, be no Marines command center.
Well, he made the pool and the gas at the exact same time, which optimizes for lair timing and like not worrying about 8 racks. And because this Overlord identified the exact timing of the barracks, he's like going to try and really optimize this lair timing and even delay his Zerglings by a few seconds.
And he did get top middle, which has, I think, the best optimization if you know how to spread out your workers. Like
100%.
Yeah, I mean, I can't spread out my workers every time I try and match Royals like fastest factory. Mine's like 5 seconds faster. I don't know how they do it, but I've seen VODs where, just in a couple games previously on this map, we saw, I think it was also XiaoShuai with the 155 gas, which is 5 seconds normal then faster, and those seconds really do matter.
Yeah, honestly, like this 12 o'clock position for Zerg is insane. Like the amount of minerals you can get potentially per minute with just the first 5 optimized patches, it's nuts. As a Zerg player, it makes you just like kind of giddy inside when you get that kind of position, because you can kind of like do these kind of optimized builds that you can't usually do in other positions on other maps.
Well, remember I was talking about the 3 Marine move? Well, there it is. Hopefully he turns around. Yeah, he does turn around. Now, what you can do here with these Marines is you can sit on high ground, and if Zerg just, A moves, not looking because they don't expect the Marines to be here, you can get a couple of Zerglings pretty much for free, and that will trigger Zerg to at least respond with a couple Morlings or Sunken. But I think the Overlord spotted the Marine move out, so that's why you see Zerg not committing.
Yeah. This is 16 low as well, so we will see pretty decent unit control still. We're not getting the same kind of turn rate as earlier when we were playing with the Chinese Observer on 24, but yeah, 16 low is more than enough. It's basically like how the best possible latency you had on IC Cup back in the day was basically 16 low. It's more than enough to do some good micro. We also saw like him very easily dispatch the SCV with his link control there, so very confident in his ability to control even on 16 low.
And I saw Gypsy just snuck out an SCV, and I think it went undetected because if he knew it was out, Lings would be looking for it. And he's going to get in here and see that this guy's playing a normal opener, no hidden, no sneaky Hydra Den, no crazy like Ling Flood or anything. He will see just normal fire. Zerg did sneak out a worker though to mid left, so he's going to take that base as his third.
I like this pressure of just like annoying the depot here as well. Like if he doesn't like respond, he kills it, and at the very least forces a repair. It's just another little interaction for Terran to worry about. Meanwhile, like he's got a pretty optimized healthy drone count. Like this isn't like super all-in kind of drone count, but he can still go into 3-hatch muta all-in with this kind of setup. So I really do like this from XiaoShuai. He keeps his options as fluid and as expansive as possible. Like Terran's really going to be guessing in the next coming stage of what exactly this is going to be.
Well, Terran's did confirm that there's no third hatch in the main. Wow, I'm actually surprised he doesn't commit with these Marines. I guess it is only 7, and if this guy did build a lot of Lings, you're in trouble. But when you know that the third hatch is in the main, I feel like you got to do something, whether it's forcing Sunkens at the natural, or forcing more Lings out, or trying killing the third hatch. But it doesn't seem like he got much out of that. Instead, he just backs off.
Well, he's optimizing because of going like slower comsats, right? So he's like, he knows he's got less scans to work with, so he has to be a little bit more cautious. Like if he went double like really early scanners and he scanned the main and natural and confirmed everything and saw the exact drone count at that exact time, he'd know it'd be safe to do that. But without that ability to confirm with early comsats, I feel like it's safer not to do that.
Yeah, so it was a good move to turn around, and now we're going to be playing defense just like Mihu did. Turret's already in good positions. He has 3 racks, and we'll see how many racks he does want to ramp up into. Muta's okay. 1 Muta's already almost dead, so just like in the Mihu series, good focus fire coming down for Gypsy. Oh, that Muta, I thought he was going to get hit from the top side.
Well, XiaoShuai's got this like kind of mapped out well. Like you always want to kind of cycle down to the unit flow from the racks to the natural, and he had that timing down where the Marines would be showing up, but didn't have the execution on the angle to actually kill those 2 Marines cycling out. So far, not really getting the damage he would like to in this early game Muta harass, but has a few Lings from the north keeping Gypsy worried while he tries to come into this pocket and pick off a few of these SCVs. But look at these spread out turrets from Gypsy. Maybe he's like was watching those games live that we just saw being played a moment ago, because he's kind of got this same sort of setup as Mihu, with the turrets being much more spread out here.
It does look really identical, and so far the damage is basically non-existent. I mean, XiaoShuai has gotten what, like 2 SCVs? Terran doesn't care about 2 SCVs, I can guarantee you that. Now these 2 Lings get in, but these 2 Lings don't have great DPS, and that's going to trigger... Oh, actually the Mutas may have taken a lot of damage while running over that Marine ball. Turret does fall. I guess this could get a little bit weird, but instead, Gypsy, it looked like he was stimming, but no, he's not. He's just moving over towards the natural and looking for that third base.
This is actually a little bit rough for... Oh, he's careful! Ooh. Almost losing 2 mutas for free, but this is a little bit rough for Gypsy if he gets this mutas to start dogging this Bible, because eventually this Bible will be cleaned up fairly nicely, but he's taking a lot of damage onto these mutas, so it'll take a lot longer to clean up this Bible, and there's a chance that Gypsy could either kill a lot more mutas or at least rejoin it with some additional Marines later on, but I think the former will happen.
If he can escort this army back to safety just like Mihu did in his games versus XiaoShuai, Terran will be in a really good spot, because Terran's crushing their build order. Starports are on the way. Feel like the Marine ball is a little bit too low. Maybe need to try and send some stuff to try and save it. It looks like he's trying to get there in time, and he will, and that means he will save this army, which is a big win for him.
Yeah, this is a really big win for Terran at this stage of the game. Like, most Zergs will be able to isolate that pocket of Marines and trade it off after going up to 11 mutas, and then you're in a bit of a rough spot as Terran. There's even situations where you kill the third base early game with 2 racks, but even though you kill the third base, they just kill up all those bio units, and it's still a fairly playable position. So you need to be really careful with your bio units and rejoin them whenever you get a chance to.
Now remember, in the Mihu series, there were a lot of medics. Not that many medics with this group of armies, so every stem is really, really rough.
And another thing to consider is that Gypsy's just playing this straight out of the gate after that, like, a bit of a disappointing defeat against Bonif, so he's not in the best of mental states. He needs to be able to keep his wits about him in this against XiaoShuai, because a few missteps and these mutas will start to mow down the rest of these Marines.
Another medic falls there. That's 2 medics that just died. Wow, that muta list, that definitely looked like 3 range, don't you think? You know, shooting from the 3-point line.
Yeah, I mean, he's using the Chinese triangle technique to get like pretty much the maximum range on these volleys, while also being able to control the timing of that volley. So he's getting the maximum damage output while also mitigating as much incoming damage as possible. It's a tried and true method of microing mutas, and the Chinese basically invented that.
Double depot falling. This is almost the identical build to what Mihu had done in the first game, or first series, I mean, because it is Valkyrie, it's not Vessels. But Mihu had a much larger army, so I am worried that once the Valkyries get out, yes, they'll be able to deal with the mutas, but how do you deal with that right there? There's 6 lurkers, and the Marine count what is it, 12 maybe? I mean, there's not that much. He does have 5 racks,
Yeah.
but he needs to get on his own high ground ASAP, because if he gets locked in, you're not getting out.
Yes, and also he might be careful. All right, if he loses this first, oh, okay, please pay attention to your Valkyrie. He's going to lose the Valkyrie now. This is really bad from gypsy. This is the worst case scenario. I was really worried about that happening. He needs to put that Valkyrie on hold position, or at least manually control it at all times. But getting a fair few mutas on the exit with those Marines quick response force. But now look at this Lurker Link coming in. He has the high ground control, so now the Zerg will be descending upon him in the worst case scenario.
Oh, there's just so many lurkers here. There's 6 lurkers. The Valkyrie comes out, which is critical for holding this because the mutas would have soaked up so many hits. But this is hitting before Terran even has +1 armor. At least I don't think they have +1. Okay, there's 9 lurkers. So
yeah.
If there was an opportunity to jump on 6, I mean, that's come and gone. He's gonna pop 1 lurker, maybe? No, it just barely survives with 20 health.
I mean, this is a nightmare situation for Terran. Like, I kind of do feel for Terran players in general. There are certain game states you get yourself into, and it just becomes like such a cluster mess of like, how do I even navigate this? Yeah, he's just gonna tap out. GG quickly called from gypsy. Doesn't want to get this game any more frustrating than it already is. Wants to just try and reset his mental state and get into the game number 2 here.
Yep, it's really rough. If you don't keep your Marine count high enough to stay out on the map, that's exactly what happens. You know, generally you think that Zuri's going to play defensively with lurkers going to Defilers, but they don't have to, and you can see what happens when Terran loses control over the center. The game ends. I mean, you don't have any tanks because you rush Valkyrie or you rush Vessel. Even if he goes Vessels there, what's he going to do? Irradiate 2 out of the 9 lurkers? That's still 7 left over. You're not busting through that. So gypsy here is in a rough spot now. Now this is his last life. Like, if he loses, he's out.
Well, even best case scenario, he trades off enough of those lurkers where it's just to contain. Eventually the Defiler will be out, and eventually he will just like nail the coffin shut with that Dark Swarm. So even if you do trade well and prevent the bust, that you're still pretty much out of the game.
Yeah, so gypsy, it's going to be his pick, and what is he going to risk his life on? I'm trying to think of what maps do I like versus Zerg. I think Radion's good. I like.
Are there any good Terran maps? Artosis doesn't think so.
Well, Artosis, I mean, you're right. He doesn't think any map is good. What's funny is he thinks that maps are good for a while, and then he plays them, and they all of a sudden become really bad, like the season favorite. But I think Citadel, okay, I'm actually surprised at this pick. Dark Origin is a good map if you can split, which I think you definitely can, especially with the bridges, but I was not expecting him to pick a 2-player map. So let's get into potentially the last game of the day as we get into Dark Origin. Okay, so in the top left, 1 game away from making it out, or not making it out, moving on, it is XiaoShuai. And in the bottom right, looking to avoid elimination, we do have Gypsy.
Yeah, his Torment life is on the line right now. He's going to be feeling the pressure. Not as calm and collected as he would have been in those early games in the series against Bonif. Now the pressure is really on. Now this is a true testament of a player's skill.
He did get bottom right, which is the best spawn by far. It's not even close. You can full wall, don't even have to build Marines, and you know, you can fend off, well, I guess you build 1 Marine, and you can fend off basically everything, start scaling to massive econ. The one thing you do have to worry about is, of course, those back buildings, and there goes the SCV. SCV for, I'm guessing, will be a wall, not an 8 racks.
Yeah, and XiaoShuai doing a good job of boosting these minerals early on and getting pretty good optimization.
It is an 8 racks, I guess.
Yeah.
You know, he did. Remember, Gypsy was able to watch the games between Mihu and XiaoShuai, and I guess he realized, like, well, you know, this guy does go 12 hatch a decent amount of time. He does go 12 pool sometimes, but the majority of the games have been 12 hatch, so why not go for an 8 racks on a map where it's good, and you've got the full wall to fall back on?
Yeah. If I was XiaoShuai, though, I would definitely 11 pool here.
Well, I think 11 pool and overpool and that type of stuff is pretty good on Dark Origin. It eliminates builds like this pretty instantly. And I think also XiaoShuai is someone that does go 12 hatch, right? And even sometimes builds a drone. So this could do a lot of damage in comparison to, you know, like an 11 hatch 10 pool opener.
Yeah, I mean, he's playing for economy by making it on 12 instead of 11. And honestly, I really don't like 11 hatch versus Terran. I feel like you either go 11 pool or 12 hatch, and he's in the same mindset, but might be get punished for it. And he is doing that 12, 12, 12. So really late pool here. So he's going to rely purely on drone micro and his ability to not be overwhelmed by this early pressure.
Yeah, and 8 racks, I think, if I remember correctly, hits fast enough where you don't have anything to drill on for a few seconds at least.
Yeah, especially on Dark Origin, actually, because he has to go cross with the Overlord. You see how the Overlord's going diagonally? It takes even longer to get down here to the natural.
Yep, and he is sending an SCV and a Marine across, and this is going to be a tough hold for XiaoShuai because he did build that additional drone that I talked about. Now, different Zergs have different responses to this. Some pull like 6 drones, some pull 9 like we're seeing here. Some don't even care for whatever reason. This was a 9 drone response, and he really wants to shut this down.
Well, this is a really far back bunker, so he wants to make this bunker, then leapfrog another bunker forward. And XiaoShuai is saying, no, you're staying away, and he's really committing with the drones. He has 5 back at home to kill this bunker, while the other 4 try and see if they can cut off the reinforcing 3rd Marine. Looks like he's going to keep that 3rd Marine intact, but he is going to get this bunker cancelled.
Yep, there's the cancel. The pool just finished, and even if you start a bunker now, don't think it will be in time by the time the Ling's complete. It is 3. I don't think this is going to work anymore, actually. There's 4 drones that surround you. There's a lot of drones at the top, and Lings are going to be completed. This is an awkward position for Gypsy. He only has 4 Marines here. I think he should consider... Okay, he sniped 1 drone. You got to turn around at this point. Yeah, he's going to actually turn around.
Now, the problem is how does he get back to his base? He's got 5 Marines versus 8 Lings, I think this is.
Yeah, I mean, he's got really good control, but you're going to have to stand here and fight now. Okay, there goes one of them. 5 Marines. Do they really beat 7 Lings?
They do if they come in a train. So he picked off 1 Ling, which was good, but he needs to make sure... Yeah, it's a little bit awkward. So without like the Lings coming in a train, it's not possible. So he did a good job at first by picking off that 1 Ling as they were siphoning out, but then like XiaoShuai kind of got himself together and like went in properly as he should. So a little bit awkward there. Not really finding the compensation for those units he needs to, and now in a little bit of a weird situation where he's had his Marine count completely reset, and XiaoShuai opened up 12, 12, 12. So even though he committed all the drones to that early defense, he now has still a pretty healthy economy behind this.
Yeah, he's got big econ here, and he held it perfectly. Lost 1 drone. Didn't overbuild Lings either. Okay, well, there's an idle drone there, so I guess that's somewhat of a benefit for Gypsy there, that's not mining. In response to, or as a follow-up to this 8 racks opener, he's gone into fast +1, and this could be a 4 racks, but it could also be just fast eBay plus fast academy and get all the upgrades really quickly, and you just still sit on something like a 2 or 3 racks.
Yeah, I mean, it's not like Gypsy's out of the game or anything. It's just a small edge here going to the Zerg player, so something to consider as Terran. You're not really sitting pretty anymore. Like, you want to get like 2-3 drone kills at the very least to kind of even the scales.
Still doesn't know about that drone, so I mean, it's kind of like a dead drone.
Yeah,
it's not going to mine. It's the same thing.
Yeah.
So that's pretty nice. Still doesn't realize.
It's just outside the screen. Like, he can't physically see that drone every time he looks at his hotkey.
Yeah. Also, if he plays with pillar box, yeah, it's tiny, and also, you know, maybe because he's blue,
he gets it.
He also doesn't notice it on Dark Origin, but yeah, he fixed it right now.
Yeah, just barely fixing that in the nick of time before that started to become a bit of a weird problem, because every minute that's not doing anything is 60 minerals down the drain.
It is definitely a big loss, and I think the SCV before it exited the base saw the hatch in the main. Not exactly confident on that assessment, but I think he did. He is still alive, though, looking to come back in for a secondary scout. Meanwhile, we do see Gypsy starting to ramp up his production as the 2nd and 3rd racks both come in at basically the same time.
Yeah, I think we're going to see probably a fairly normal game despite that early shenanigans. I think the relative timings get pushed back approximately a minute for both players. It's just a matter of how bad is it for both respective players, right? Like, but the timings have been delayed by about a minute. Everything's going to kind of line up the same. It's just one player will be slightly edged out.
And Spire, I think we're about 75% done. So we're going to have mutas on the field in just a second. You can see that the academy's done. 2 medics out already. Got turrets a turret and bunker. So
Yeah.
I guess he never actually got into the main, so he wasn't actually sure how fast the Spire was. But if he knew how fast it was, these turrets could have gone potentially into a 5 racks, which is amazing into mutas if you can support them all. But either way, it's going to be fine. He's going to have turrets obviously in time to defend everywhere.
Yeah, but like you say though, it is actually kind of a critical thing. If you don't make them as optimized as you can, that's a lot of potential lost as Terran. Like you basically make things when you can afford them, and if you can get away with it, you want to delay things to the last second, right?
Yeah, indeed. Every second matters, and you know, if he can have 5 racks here, like that's the dream versus a 3 hatch opener. You know, kind of a 3 hatch opener. But 4 racks is still wow. That's a really fast Hydra Den, and I'm starting to get flashbacks to my own game versus XiaoShuai, where he showed exactly this. Showed like, hey, I'm going mutas. Haha, you better build Valkyries or you better build mass turrets. But then all of a sudden he shows up with a million lurkers. So it is imperative that Gypsy scans this.
Yeah, this den is super early, especially when you consider like how slow the relative timings got delayed with the early shenanigans of the drones not mining and what have you. So a den at 7 minutes after 2.5 hatch with the early 8 racks pressure is a pretty crazy fast timing here.
Well, Terran I thought was going to go unscouted for a second, but it does get spotted by the Lings. Now these turrets are in a really good position, and the mutas tried to counter but got nothing done, and that means that Terran gets to the hardest part, which is past the bridges. This is not a very fearsome army. I mean, it's pretty decent, especially with +1, so you got to respect it, but this can definitely get taken down by just Lings and mutas. Behind this, Gypsy, not all in. Of course, he's scaling into his tech. Factory already almost done.
Yeah, one thing you have to be worried about here is Gypsy is the sort of sole key play style of making a lot of Mutalisk, a lot of Lings, and then efficiently dispatching these small bio balls before they become like big death balls later on.
Yeah, that's exactly why you see Gypsy not committing very far across the map. So if he can get these together, that's exactly what he's going to do. And this might be a great angle for him. He's got Marines on the backside with Marines on the top side. And this army now all of a sudden is extremely strong. He doesn't have that many medics, but now he has a full 2 groups. And now XiaoShuai really has to respect the firepower.
Yeah, he found a tiny bit of compensation sniping that 5th medic to force the issue of overstimming being a factor. But honestly, like, this is going really Gypsy's way, joining forces with additional Marines right now. This Bioball is now just spiked in its power potential. Can still get cleaned up by the Mutaling threat here, but much more difficult to do so.
Like a lot of damage on that Mutavolley. And the Lings, ooh, are we going to be setting? I mean, the way this is positioning, it looks like it's going to be for a counterattack. Yeah, a backstab. We may have another base trade scenario. Now, remember, Zerg did rush a lurker or a Hydra Den. So if he's got like hidden Hydras out on the map, which he doesn't.
Sunkens. He's making Sunkens. He's going to sack the 3rd and make Sunkens. If Gypsy's too slow in recognizing this, he might be caught with his pants down and not be able to get in top of the Sunkens time as well. Getting on top of this bunker with the Muta Link Force, there's enough DPS here to clean this up quite nicely. The turrets are much more difficult to deal with though. They can get repaired and body block their links, but they can just circumnavigate that, go straight into the main base. Now we have this big wall of Sunkens going up. Only 2 are finished though. There's no lurkers on the way. Gypsy has enough to break through that, but it's a weird base trade scenario now. Mutalings on top of the Terran production. Who's going to take this Nyoken?
I think Terran's going to win. I think that the Marine count or the Marine ball is way too big. And look at this, he's going panic race because he knows if he holds his main, he's going to win. He acted like he was going to bust the natural or the 3rd base, but he scanned the natural and saw that this guy has nothing. So he goes for it, and there's not that many mutas left over. Like, there's 6 and they're damaged. The lurkers still have not popped. Scan. Oh, lurkers.
Oh, not quite getting the connections. Oh, there it is. The subterranean spy is wiping out that bioforce. He's not mining at this 3rd base. He's also making race, or was making race from those 2 starports, unless he cancelled them. This is a crazy situation. Like, I don't think it was quite as one-sided as you thought.
Remember, I was about to say, remember the bunker got taken down, and I think now with no bunker, I don't think you can hold this. There's way too many Marines. The race, I don't know what happened to them. Did they complete? But XiaoShuai's immediately a counterattacker. Remember, he still has 2 lurkers here. So if they get into the mineral line, he just GG's, it's over. Wow, and that's going to be it. So, bit disappointing there for Gypsy there. His counterattack was great, but the counterattack from XiaoShuai, a little bit too much. Almost popped those lurkers, and I think if he gets those lurkers, he probably wins the game. So, a little bit sad there, especially after his epic series versus Bonnet be taken down so quickly.
Oh, that's a really rough one for Gypsy. I wouldn't want to be his desk or his keyboard right now. I'd feel like very threatened.
Yeah. I mean, that's a frustrating way to lose, especially when it's a base trade, right? You know, it says as even as it gets, it just comes down to better positioning, better micro. Unfortunately, all of his Marines were clumped at the very end. If they were in a line, right? Like, I still think he loses the fight, but maybe he picks off 2 of those lurkers, and maybe he can hold the counterattack. But either way, you got to give props to XiaoShuai, because that was the perfect move.
But it's the bunker going down that's so critical, because then the mutas can just lock out the Marines from saving the natural, and the links clear up the turrets. It becomes a very frustrating position for Terran either way. He has to trade phenomenally well to make that position really work for him.
Yeah, it is really hard. And, you know, in the spur of the moment, you're not thinking about building a bunker. You're thinking about, holy smokes, I got to build as many Marines as I possibly can build. I'm still not sure about those races, because they should have been out at some point. Maybe they got canceled after he realized he was going to hold. I don't even think the race would have helped him there. So what a way to go out. A little bit sad, but at least we still have the Zergs remaining in the bottom side, and we've got Boneth versus Mihu in the top side, and then Jonhoon versus DeWalt in the top side also. So those are some insane winner brackets and tough opponents for you know, whoever goes to the loser brackets, of course. But that is it today, guys. So of course we've got to be thanking our
patrons
sponsors of the BSL. Yep. And Patreon. So of course, Esports Fund being the main sponsor of the BSL. Thank you so much for the continued support. And our Patreon supporters, without you, BSL definitely could not be happening. So at the $100 level, we got My Fleeting Dream, $50 Striker, $30 Tim Cuz Tupacalypse, and Voltina Bulai, $20 Steaming Gypsy, Yu Zhang, Medino, Stephen Robertson, Gordon Bradley, KJ Streaming Channel, Daniel Lopez, LML, and Nicholas Schuler, and all you other Patreon supporters. Thank you so much for the continued support of the BSL. And as I mentioned previously, $10 support or above, you can get those replays. You can learn how to defend like Mihu. You can learn how to hit those carrier timings like Boneth. You can learn how to mute a micro like XiaoShuai and follow it up with some killer lurker timings. So definitely consider becoming a Patreon supporter.
It's definitely a great incentive to support this great game and great community, guys. You should definitely do that.
Indeed, you should. And that is it today. Thank you so much for casting with me, Sean. I enjoyed it, and I look forward to casting with you in the future if that actually unfolds. And got any final words?
No, thanks for having me, guys. It's an absolute treat to cast some great games with you. We got some great players in the foreigner scene, and I think this is really like the new ushering in of a golden age of StarCraft, and we should take full advantage of that.
Indeed, you should. I've said there's the 3 golden ages of StarCraft. 1, before replays, where nobody knew what the hell they were doing. You're just experimenting. 2, you started to get into the July Zerg area with the Mutamicro, where we're starting to play real strategies you even see today. And now today, you've got pro streaming, you've got Seawall. You can even donate to a pro and play him. He will play you if you donate enough. It is literally the golden era of Broodwar. So definitely consider becoming a supporter of the BSL. And with all that said, I am looking forward to casting the groups up next week, which are going to be stacked. It's going to be Mihu versus Boneth and Jonhoon versus DeWalt. So you definitely don't want to miss out on those.
Thanks, guys.
Is the name of the dance.